This is the most interesting podcast ever.
You can call me Admiral. I bet you're all wondering why I gathered you here today.
You post your failures on the internet?
No, God, no. And if you do it right, you open up a portal to another dimension.
And it could be even like a hypercube-esque fourth dimensional being that can kind of hop in and out of time.
True AI wouldn't let us know that it deviated.
We became friends in a parking lot.
Hence the name, the Long Shot Parking Lot.
Drew has informed me that this story is not very fun.
That is not true. Welcome to the Long Shot Parking Lot. I'm Drew.
And I'm Katie.
And we're on a new mic.
We are on a new mic. Hopefully it sounds a little bit better, or at least hopefully it's easier for me.
Yeah. I'm going to nickname him Myers.
Oh, Myers. Okay, that works for me. It's a blue brand, so I just called him Blue.
Mike Myers.
I get it.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks. Anyway.
But then it makes it all the more weird to say we're on a new mic.
And that's why I started at.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Cool. Thanks for listening. This has been an episode. Bye.
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, because we were doing our About Time episode, and we mentioned that we had just watched Mad Max, but we weren't going to talk about it during that episode because we were going to do a different episode about it. And that is what you are now listening to at this time. So we're going to talk about Mad Max. And the interesting thing about it, or at least interesting to us, was that we had kind of talked about like the feminism of Mad Max and how people were kind of butthurt about that and whatever. But actually, I end up saying, I don't know if it was your first thought, but was that actually I felt like it had a lot more to say about capitalism than it did about feminism. Like the feminist stuff was cool, but that should just be a given. And so you at least agreed. I don't know.
I agree, yeah, but it was definitely, I hadn't thought about it until you brought it up. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, kind of. It's monopolies. It's the classic post-apocalyptic, I have this, I'm better than you, you now depend on me, which is like money and capitalism. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting episode.
It will be interesting. We'll see how much we have to say, but
I don't have a lot. I'm going to go ahead and disclose that.
I have a couple thoughts. Well, first of all, I was just thinking about, because like Handmaid's Tale does this, which I haven't seen, but I know enough about pop culture to know about it, where it's like anytime there's some sort of post-apocalyptic thing, it just reverts back to like the patriarchy, which is kind of interesting to me. Like, I guess maybe it's about like physical strength, or maybe it's about like that's just like the default of human history, and so people do that. It's
not the default of human history,
but maybe of like our conscious history. That was one of my first thoughts. It was like, why is that a given in so many post-apocalyptic? Yeah,
I was wondering the same thing too. I think it's a lot about, in a post-apocalyptic, I'm thinking like Walking Dead and stuff like that. It's a lot more violent.
Yeah,
and men are more likely to be violent and kill somebody who isn't.
Maybe even just more likely to have like the skill of shooting a gun or something. Just in our world today, like I'm a very quite feminist, capable person, but I don't know how to change a tire.
Right.
You know? Yeah. Where it's kind of like likelihood is most guys do. You know? Yeah,
it plays into the stereotype of like the people who are more likely to own a gun also are more likely to have quote unquote traditional values of
or like the skills.
I'm the man of the house, you know?
Yeah.
So like those practical handy skills might, I mean, obviously it's not 100% of a thing.
They're probably more likely to also just kill each other than women are, maybe. Fair. You know, to just like run into something and just be like, I'm gonna beat this with my brawn.
Straight, yeah.
You know,
fight or flight, and it's all fight. Yeah, I only gets you so far.
So I don't know. It's just an interesting, and there's like the obvious. I mean, men are physically stronger than women, typically, not always, but like sometimes at their peak. That's why Olympians compete in different categories, you know. And also like there's the obvious like if a woman gets pregnant, that's like 9 months where she's gonna be obviously at a disadvantage, you know. I don't know. What
I was
just laughing.
Hi, welcome to base surface level biology history with.
But I do think that though in a post-apocalyptic thing where there's no civilization or like culture that supports that would like prop up, you know, anything beyond like the basest of physical equality, that would come into play. You know.
I could see it. I also am like false hopefully like optimistic. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no,
I do
women
think
will be equal.
And I do think women would have an advantage in other ways.
I agree.
But I can see why. But I think beyond just the biological reasons, I think that we right now as a culture, just when you see it right now with Trump or with any of the, it's like when people get afraid and so they want like a strong man or what they perceive to be a strong man,
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about in Mad Max, the guy who they turn to is physically quite weak,
Morton Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But which Trump has to falsify his like doctor reports every year.
Yeah.
So he's obviously quite a weak person physically and in every way.
Wrong.
Sad.
Fake news.
But yet there's something about he imposes some sort of power to some people in the same way I think that guy from Mad Max does.
Yeah, it's because he's sitting at the lever of water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fear-mongering.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole, I have something you want. I'm going to do everything I can to protect it, to make you dependent on me.
And I was thinking about, too, like I watched the Honest trailer for Mad Max before we did this today.
Yeah.
And they pointed out how much they waste water in the movie.
Yeah.
They'll just like leave a hose running, or even just the way he distributes the water to the masses is so inefficient.
I hate it.
Yeah. But I was thinking about how like the garish waste of scarce resources is like an expression of power.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Like, do you think the brides, like, I don't know what the women that escape with Furiosa, they've never known the scarcity of water.
Mm-hmm.
So they just leave the hose running. Yeah, it is 100% a check your privilege moment.
Mm-hmm. But I think that what is his name? The King
Joe.
guy. Yeah. Immortan Joe.
Yeah.
Okay. Immortan Joe. When you want to show someone that you're super rich or you're really powerful, you rip up $100 bill in front of them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, I really could have used that.
Right.
But you're like, this means nothing to me. This is how powerful I am. And I feel like that is a similar sort of, that's what he does. He just pours water on them that they can't even drink.
Right. I mean, even at the end, when they get there, they just unleash all the water. Like, that's still not the most effective. Like, I get it. You're trying to distribute it fastest to the people, but also, like, you're going to flood that ground, And
it's not drinkable. It's going to be dirty. And
yeah. I mean, at that point, they're going to
I do feel like I understand there are, like, hundreds and hundreds of people, but if you would just, like, form a single file line.
Right?
Like, it might take a little longer, but it would be like actually fair and useful, and they could have enough to, instead of a little bowl, they could have enough to take home to their families.
Right. But then you get to the point of, if you're desperate, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
I have this written down, and I thought it was a really good joke. I just haven't found the timing for it.
Oh yeah. But
it's literally a trickle-down economy.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Yeah, quite literally.
Yeah.
Damn. I like it.
I have literal trickle-down economy. And that's my only note for the night. All right, here we go.
Oh.
Yeah, just kidding. I have one more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like, if you have that power, he's holding on to as much as he can. It's true capitalism. You look at Jeff Bezos. You look at, billionaires that have all this money. And it's like, they're holding on to it for what? Like, he's holding on to all this water so he can continue to be in power. Like, you're a weak leader. Yeah. You're a piece of shit.
Did you hear what Ivanka Trump said this week?
Oh my God. The work for your wage, like... No, that's an example. Yeah. That's an example of the privilege. You're going off secondhand experience because you've never had to be in it. If you were in it, you would know that that's bullshit. And that's the whole thing. I think I've been in a position where, like, I don't have a lot of money. Still in that position. Spoiler alert. Yeah. Like, I don't want other people to feel that way. So I'm more likely to share or have that mentality of, like, we're in this together. Like, if you have $0, I have $5, we have $5. Right. Kind of thing. Where, like, I don't need to hold that money. Like shit. Like, let's get a pizza and split it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to hold on to that money. Like, if I know you're struggling. Yeah. I mean, not that I'm like, oh, I'm so great. But, like, I just don't really have a concept of, like I had a coworker who wasn't going to have the money for gas in her car for, like, 24 hours.
I was like, here, I have $8.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Like, what's your Venmo?
Yeah. Like, it's not, and yeah, I could probably use $8, but it's a Jimmy John's sandwich.
Also, yeah, what can you use $8 for?
Yeah. It doesn't really, in the long run, isn't going to affect me. So like that thing about like, oh, I'm proud and I want to do things myself. Yeah. If I couldn't do things myself, I want to. I don't know. And that's how I feel like it kind of works. It's like
it's that sense of receiving charity is shameful kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no. You want to work for what you earn, Ivanka? Did you get a small business loan from your dad?
Yeah.
For $1 million?
Well,
like,
and I'm like, you think you're working harder than me who like has 2 jobs and, you know, is barely making it?
Right.
I don't think so.
Exactly.
It's like people who do work for what they earn. They just work way harder than they need to.
There's no unskilled labor. There's undervalued labor. Because it's like you see people. This is a more personal example. Like I know how to make a cardboard box really fast. Is that a useful skill? It is when I was packing books, but like it's not something that other people value. I was like, because when was the last time you took a flat piece of cardboard and like folded it into a box? Like never. You know what I mean? Like I can do that really fast because I had to do it for like 2 years. And it's skilled. I would say it's a skill, but it's undervalued because not everybody has to do that.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to my dad about like, who would you vote for if you had to vote tomorrow in this field of candidates and all that stuff. So we were just talking about how, like we were talking about like, will Amy Klobuchar get very far and whatever. And talking about like appealing to the middle, which the middle is where the money is. You know, you have to get conscientious businesses. Like you think about like a business like Target, right? They want to earn money. That's why they exist. So they want subsidies from the government and they want all the tax breaks that Trump has to give. And yet, as a company, they have like a moral code, you know, and they've said we have a bathroom policy and we have like, we're going to be a presence at Pride every year and we're going to bathroom policy for like trans people. So companies like that, where they're like, where are we going to put our money? Because it's kind of the moral side of it and the business side of it are a little bit conflicting at certain points. And so, but it's this weird thing of like, how do we get the money to go in the places where we need it to? And yet the money is the problem. Like, that's the problem. The fact that like we have to court financial support for our causes when it's not actually beneficial to them as a corporation. And so I think about that all the, like, how do we like, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and like a couple of the other Congress people this time around didn't take any big PAC donations. Like, how practical is that going forward? Like, you can't do that as a presidential candidate.
Bernie.
Right. But like, I mean, it's going to be rough, right? It's going to be tough. And so how do you use the money, right? And court the money, but not like also
sacrifice.
But also get rid of that, because that is the problem. Like, money needs to not be part of politics, but we can't get to a place where money's not part of politics without making money part of politics.
Right.
Or it will be very difficult.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just been a weird, I don't know if it's just like, well, this is what the way the world is, or if it's like, no, can we demand better? And if we demand better, are we in the survival of the fittest, right? Are we the weak ones? To be like, no, I'm not gonna evolve the claws that this other species has, and then I'm just gonna get killed off.
Yeah, that's I had to give a debate in college once. And it was one of those things where we were assigned the topic, like we were assigned our stance, so we didn't get to choose. And my stance was, my assigned stance, because this is not what I believe in, was that like that basic health care is not a human right, and that we don't have to help countries in need. Okay. And my whole argument was survival of the fittest. Like, we have our own problems. Like, fuck them. They don't have it. They don't deserve it, kind of thing. And the entire class had to like choose who won the debate. And all I literally did was I went second, like after the person who I was arguing against. I took all of their arguments and just said like, not do this. But I stood up and said it louder, and everybody thought I crushed it. And the teacher was literally like, and that's how Hitler came to power. And I was like, yeah, I'm a better public speaker. And I used that was my only advantage in this argument, because the rest of it was garbage.
Well, that's what's happening, right?
Exactly. And you're Trump. You're saying things louder, and
or somebody says universal health care, and then you say universal health care. Right. Like it's a bad thing. And then people are like, oh, that's a bad thing. I don't know. It should be. I think the optimist in me, or at least the MLK, like the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And I think that's been the course of the world so far. I see that in world history, right? Like that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice, like that. Yeah, sometimes it's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, like a lot of times. Yeah.
Good is the default.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to take a long time, but good will win in the end, or things are getting better in a long view of history sense, which I think is mostly true.
I agree.
Like there's a TED Talk that talks about all the ways that the world is getting better statistically. And it just feels worse because of
anti-vaxxers. And
right.
It's 2 steps back.
But that's never not been a thing.
Right.
It's just that they have a microphone now. Yeah. So it's not like in reality it's getting worse. It's just we're more aware of it.
Right.
It's like all the controversy around The Last Jedi. Were you aware of that at all?
No. Remember?
People, I know. People, there was a large contingency of anti-feminist nerds.
Oh, yeah.
Who intentionally like tanked the Rotten Tomatoes score. And they yell online about SJWs, which is social justice warriors. And I'm always just like, that feels like a compliment to me. Like you say that like it's a bad thing, again, like the Trump thing. But I'm like, yeah, I'll be a social justice warrior. That sounds great. And so those people do things like, it just happened again with Captain Marvel, actually. Okay. Brie Larson said she only wanted women to interview her for the junkets. And of course, stupid nerds. Right. There are a lot of great nerds. There are a lot of stupid nerds. Yeah. And the stupid nerds went on Rotten Tomatoes and tanked the audience score prematurely. It's not even out yet. Right. And it forced Rotten Tomatoes to change their like decades-long rating system because they were like, you cannot do this.
Right. So that's playing the system. There's multiple ways of doing that. That's Reddit had a subreddit called The Donald, which is like a pro Donald Trump one. And they realized that if they told everybody in their subreddit to upvote every single post, they could take over the front page of Reddit every single day. Yeah. So it's playing the system. Yeah. It's, so, Rotten Tomatoes, if you want, all right, hey, you get a group of people to be like, hey, this is what we're doing. You tank the system. You look at one of my favorite podcasts, Science Versus. It's one of the best podcasts ever. And it doesn't have a perfect 5-star rating because they did an abortion episode. Yeah. And somebody was like, they're pro-abortion. We got to tank them. And they got a ton of 1-star reviews from it. And it's all pro-life people. And it's like, this is actually a really good podcast. They're giving you the science of it. Like, again, it's not a political podcast. It's literally just science. And you believe this. So you're going to tank it? Fuck you. Yeah. That
happened with in Iowa. Iowa was one of the first states that legalized gay marriage via their Supreme Court. And the church I was going to, quote/cult.
The church I was going to, read as cult.
Yeah. So it's illegal-ish for pastors to tell you who to vote for or how to vote. Because that would happen. Like they would just take their whole church down to the voting booth and be like, vote for this person. And then they'd have like undue influence on there because they're speaking for God. Right. But they were like, I know this is illegal. Screw it. And then in the next election, they were like, you know who to, and they voted out all the justices who voted for gay marriage. Right. And I was going to this church at this time. And one of the pastors just yelling up on stage being like, vote him out. And I was uncomfortable not only because I was gay and kind of knew it, but because I was just like, this doesn't seem like what we're doing here.
It's an abuse of power.
Yeah. All this to say, those people have always been around, but now they can organize and they have a platform and a microphone. They can, make stupid podcasts about whatever they want.
Parking lots. Such a liberal thing. Parking lots? Free parking? Come on.
People want to earn their parking like you and I did tonight.
Fuck yeah, we did.
We earned that. Oh, yeah.
I hope the microphone. We bought a new mic just for the high five.
Just for the high five. Back to when I was talking about the fundamentalism. It's the who decides, power decides. I don't know. There's this parable I never really understood back in where it was like, he who's given 10 will multiply that, and he who's given 1 will only have 1. Guys, it's been a while since I was in church, okay? But that's the basic idea. Is like, if you have a lot, you'll be given more if you only have 1. And that's like kind of read like, I don't think this is what it means, because it's Jesus talking like it's a good thing. But I think about that a lot, and that's how it's like, if you have something, it's exponential. Like the powerful just get more, and the weak and poor, it's like you don't have much money in your bank account, so you have overdraft fees, and then you have less, and then you have less, and then you have less until you have nothing.
Yeah, it's Atlanta. There's an episode where he gives his money to one of the guys, and he's like, yeah, I can like turn this $100 into like $10,000. He's like, dope. And he gives it to him, and he's like, dude, where's my money? He's like, I invested it. Like, I can't get you that money until like this dog that I bought with your money has puppies, and we sell the puppies for 300 piece kind of thing. And he's like, it's like, poor people can't afford investments.
Yeah.
Like, I need to eat today kind of thing. So that was one of those things where the guy who took the guy's money to invest it ended up like, it's Darius. He's like, here's my phone. Sell my phone. You're in a trouble. You need the money. I don't need this phone. I change my phone every couple of months anyway. Like, sell my phone. Like, and that's, again, that whole, like, you don't come from a lot, so you know what it's like, so you're more willing to give it up. And that's causes you to stay poor.
I don't know. I think that with the capitalism thing with Mad Max, it again kind of just, the powerful will always oppress. Like, you cannot, and this is why, like, I'm actually at heart much more of a libertarian than I am a Democrat. I like the idea of having each person have as much power to themselves as they possibly can. I like the idea of the government staying out of stuff and having as few laws as possible. In an ideal world, that's who I would be. It's not an ideal world, and people can't be trusted. And so people who have power, like trickle-down economics, does not fucking work, because people will always hoard the money every time. Like, you get one person who doesn't, maybe, but they're always the exception. And even if they're the exception, like, I was just watching, Bill and Melinda Gates have been doing the rounds for some reason. I don't know. I think they had like some yearly letter they released, and so they wanted to go on all the talk shows. And they're talking like, yeah, you should tax us more, not 70%. But, and like, they're the best version of a billionaire that you can have. I mean, they like literally, it was India. They literally cured India of polio single-handedly.
Right.
That's like about as great as you get.
Right.
And yet they have so much more than
you can spend. It's literally more than you can spend. It's the Rock argument. Have you heard that one?
I don't think so.
So it's, if you look at The Rock, he spent, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's like, for math's sake, $20 million on his house. Okay. You look at how much money he made last year. If you impose that 70% tax, and it's over the whatever million mark, so like that 10 million doesn't get touched. But anything over that gets taxed at 70%. You looked at that and you taxed him that. What he still had left, that 30%, he could still build 10 new houses at 20 million. Like, that's so much money he doesn't need. Like, that's a whole nother argument of things I hate. Like, sports professionals are overpaid. Like, Chris Clue even says it. He was like former punter for the Vikings. He's like, I make $5 million a year. That's more than a lot of people are ever going to make in their life. I kick a football decently well.
Yeah.
I don't need that much money.
I assume you didn't watch the Oscars?
No.
Nor did I, and I'm into this stuff. I always watch the clips the day after and listen to the commentaries. But did you hear about the Walmart ad?
No.
So the Walmart ad was, like the stars and the people at the Oscars and whatever. And then it shows the people behind the scenes. And they're like, we dress the people behind the scenes. And it's basically saying like, they can't afford all the nice stuff, so they shop at Walmart, And it's like this.
That's not true. They'd go to Target, but yeah.
Right, totally. But like they're implying and just kind of pointing out like, look at how poor and how nobody makes any money except for the famous people and
true.
All totally. But it was quite like the way that it was done was quite insulting,
Yeah, it sounds really insulting.
Yeah. It was one of the big conversations the next day after the Oscars was people were like, what was that about?
Right.
But it did kind of point out like, oh, only the faces and the people on the, not the back credits, the front credits,
right,
make money. And everyone else is just earning a living.
It's all about, it's all about who's in front of the camera, not behind it.
Yeah.
You never remember who took the photo.
Yeah. And maybe you remember like, you know, the director, maybe like executive producers or people, if you're really in on that stuff like I am, like I know who, you know, the people who will be the Steven Spielbergs in 20 years, like those are people I'm somewhat aware of, but mostly not. I
can name 10 directors.
I mostly know people who are like involved in controversy or people who make Star Wars or Avengers stuff.
Yeah.
Or Lego movies or should have made movies and never did. And
I'm the person that's like, oh, I liked that this director did this movie. What else did they do? Oh, I liked that movie. I like this director. Cool. They make one movie every 5 years.
All right.
Okay. I don't care enough to search out people that are similar to them. I mean, I do, but also like, cool.
Yeah. In the Honest trailer I watched for Mad Max, they were like, from the director who brought you Babe. And like, there was like 2 just ridiculous movies that were not. It was like Babe and some other like animated something that was.
What's the director?
Yeah.
I thought George Miller. He also directed Mad Max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. And I just thought that was funny.
No, yeah. Like Mad Max 1, 2, and 3 and Fury Road. Yeah. It's this all the same director. And that's literally the only things I know he did.
Yeah. Yeah. And apparently also Babe.
That's really funny.
I don't know if it was the first Babe. It might have been the second Babe.
Probably the better one. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Good times.
Yeah.
The world is unfair and going to hell. Just kidding. I don't know.
So I know we talked about this is going to be the capitalism one. But I just wanted to touch back on like how people thought it was a feminist movie.
Yep.
But even they pointed out like even the entirely femme world like even failed. So it has to have that balance.
Yeah, totally.
There needs to be some sort of balance, and that's like Max working with Furiosa was successful. You know, all of the gearheads was not successful. All of the women were not successful, but like working together is the big thing. Yeah. And that's true feminism.
Well, even the like Nicholas Hoult character, like they needed him and he was like part of their crew and he helped. And Nux. It's been a while and I watched it one time.
Yeah. The War Boy.
Yeah.
Exactly. They needed Nux. It's all about working together. And again, that's actual true feminism. Like it's not the feminazis that the people are worried about. Like not like men are trash. Yeah, men are trash, but it's implied that it's not all men. Like if you're offended by that, you are trash. But if you're not offended, like you get it. Like I get it. Men are trash. I'm not saying I'm trash.
In societies that oppress women, and again, I haven't seen The Handmaid's Tale, but I know a lot about it. But it's the women do as much in that society to like oppress women, and that's true of our society. It's true in most like stories about female oppression, and so like it's not about like men are in power and women aren't. It's that men and women work together to oppress women or people who are underprivileged in the same way that men and women work together to lift each other up and to lift up the underprivileged. So it's like you kind of can't single-handedly oppress or liberate, I don't think. Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure there are more things to say. I had a friend come into some money who offered me a gift and no, different friend. And my like immediate reaction was actually like anger because it was like that friend decided how they wanted to help me or not even help me, but like this would be fun. And I was like, do you know how many months of rent I could pay? Or like how many things I could get fixed on my car or
practical uses for that?
Pay my student loan. Yeah. I could like not be stressed out.
Right.
But instead you want to just like give me this thing that is not useful at all. Like it's this weird sort of, I don't know. And I have enough money to buy a new microphone or like put a lightsaber on my wall, you know? And even I am like, but I passed the guy sitting on the corner who like needs money and I'm wasteful still, you know? Yeah. So it's this weird, I don't know. I feel like people who don't have much money also have a weird relationship with money that is kind of like, it's kind of guilt ridden because you notice your own waste more, I feel like.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. But I'm also like, what? So I'm not going to buy anything fun for the next like 15 years?
No, and you deserve that. That's Sense8, the TV in the one guy's house. Like,
have we talked about Sense8?
No.
We need to talk about Sense8 at some point.
Yeah.
I love Sense8 so much.
I've only seen the first season.
The second, I think the second season's good.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's the whole, like, he lives in a not to other standards, like, good house, but he has a super nice TV, and people are like, why would you spend your money on a TV when you live like this? And it's like, I live like this. This is an escape. I can get out of here. Like, it was cheaper for me to avoid my problems with this nice TV than it was to fix my house, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's the whole, like, people always talk about, like, refugees, and they're like, they have cell phones, they don't need my money. Like, if something happened to you, what's the first thing you grab before you leave the house? Your form of communication. You grab your cell phone. You're going to have a cell phone. Like, something happens where you're a refugee, I bet $100 you also have your cell phone.
Yeah.
So what? Just because they're poor doesn't mean they don't deserve happiness.
Yeah.
Something that is nice. Like, yeah, well, priorities, like, cool. They have a house over, like, a roof over their head, probably. They have their basic needs are being met. Let them enjoy something. Like,
they don't get to have any happiness as long as you're giving them money.
like, or even, like, they don't get to have any happiness until everything's fixed.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about this. I actually got yelled at by a lady in a gas station the other day because a guy came up to me and asked if I had any money, and it was 6 degrees outside. He had icicles on his beard, and I was like, normally I just honestly don't have any money on me,
right?
Because debit cards, but I had a few bucks, so I'd give him like $3.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not gonna make or break me. It's not gonna affect him, really.
Right.
It's kind of just a gesture, but
that's enough to get them on the green line.
Yeah, on the train.
Up. Yeah. I literally, like, I dumped out, I have a change jar in my car, and I was like, I'm like, it's like nickels and dimes, dude, but, like, I hope this gets you on the train.
Yeah. A lady was in her car, yelled at me, called me over to her car. I'm at the gas station. And she reamed me out for like 5 minutes about how people like me are encouraging people like him to, harass people, and he's a nuisance. And she said, this is private property. Go do that on your own time. I was like, I'm at a gas station, and she's like, I know you people like to think you're helping or whatever. And I was just like, first of all, it was like $3,
It's $3. He's a fucking human.
Yeah.
Fuck that lady.
Yeah. And I literally, in the middle of her rant, I just was like, thanks, have a nice night, and walked away.
Yeah.
But it really stuck with me. Like, I was really
Who does that?
Bothered.
Who the fuck does that?
I know. But even I was thinking, like, you know what? Even if he is, like, buying a pack of smokes or using it for alcohol, I'm like, I buy alcohol. Like, does he not deserve to have just, like, a moment of relief?
Right.
Like, if it's drugs, he's probably on drugs for a reason, and it's not really my business,
right. It's... What does that lady want you to do?
Yeah.
Does she want you to go mug him and get your $3 back?
Right. Especially because this has already happened, right?
That's what I would have asked. I would have been like, thanks, ma'am. Shh. He's a human. He does, like, I don't need that $3. He clearly does. Fuck, do you want to go mug him with me and maybe we can get $4? Fuck you.
Yeah. I know. I was so mad. And
I'm really mad now.
I know. It was just something you don't. And, like, this is Uptown. You run into a lot of different kind of people. Whatever.
Yeah, it's Uptown. Minneapolis sucks.
Yeah, but it was just, it shook me up enough and was so weird to me, like, enough that, and she said she, like, worked there at the gas station. And I was like, okay. But, like, there are courses of action to take that you would take long before.
I'm not.
You would yell at someone for for giving a guy $3.
And the fact that she called you over to her car. That's the part that's also that, like, you wasted my time.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, let's just make your time. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I was almost like deer in the headlights. Like, and I was like, I don't even come to this gas station hardly ever because it's uptown and it's always weird. There are cops outside this gas station like half the time I drive by, but I happen to be almost out of gas and whatever. I was like, I'm not like contributing to like, what do you think is what good is this gonna do? You know? Anyway.
This is a weird episode.
It is a weird episode, but I feel like we covered it. I mean, do we have more to talk about Mad Max wise?
I don't have anything.
Okay. It was a good movie.
It was a good movie.
Charlize was great.
Oh, this is one thing I pointed out when we were talking about it, like the random little like lore of it is the war boys always do the same salute.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a V8 engine. That's all they know.
Yeah.
Like that little stuff, that's the kind of nerdy stuff I like.
Yeah.
Whereas,
for sure.
like, I would not like the nerdy stuff of the product of making the movie and the interviews and stuff like that. That's dumb. They're like, oh, yeah, in Star Wars, they'll make their lightsabers. You know, like that kind of stuff. That nerdy stuff I really like. Like, because it gets me into the world more. Whereas interviews
like the kyber crystals and the...
Yeah. Nerdy stuff, like nerdy backstories like that, get me into the world more. I enjoy. Interviews take me out of it more. And I hate that. But yeah, that was one of the things, like, the V8 engines, and then that doctor guy, he was tattooing Max, and stuff like that. He had a bunch of random tattoos, and they were all from like Darwin's notebooks or Da Vinci and stuff like that too. It was like, yeah, paper doesn't necessarily exist in this. It's not the easiest resource to come by in this universe. So like, tattoo it on your skin. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool.
Memento on yourself. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool. Neat. Yeah. I for some reason they both are equal for me. Part of me thinks has to do with like the religious thing, the believing two things simultaneously, that like you understand that it was made and you also believe it's real. And so I think that I was raised with a mind like that, where it's like both are equally important for some reason. Like, you learn how the Bible was put together, and you learn who just made those decisions, and you learn like who wrote it down and when and what they were thinking when they wrote it. And then simultaneously you believe that like God is telling you things through these words and that God orchestrated all of this. And so I think that being raised that way, I'm kind of made with a brain that does that and finds them both equally important and entertaining and can somehow kind of reconcile. Like, I'm still in it, you know? That's my theory anyway.
I like it.
I think about it with, like, Harry Potter a lot, and I know you don't care about Harry Potter. But with the books and the movies, they're different-ish. They're actually quite faithful, but, like, there are parts that are different. And so for those of us it's, like, not just a book or a movie, it's, like, a lifestyle. It's like Star Wars isn't a movie. Drew has his head in his hands right now.
I need to leave.
Star Wars isn't a movie.
Harry Potter is a lifestyle?
It is. I feel like it's...
I can't say anything. Soccer's a lifestyle for me.
But like Harry Potter and Star Wars and all these things it's so ingrained in like my DNA that it's religion like. And so, or like it's like growing up with mythology that's like part of your story and your culture. And that's true of both the books and the movies. And so I will say often that I believe in God like I believe in Harry Potter, which I'm not sure applies anymore, because then I would do the caveat, I really believe in Harry Potter. But there is that kind of, it's real. Like I have a relationship with these characters somehow, both the book ones and the movie ones, and they seem like the same people, but there are differences, and somehow that works in my brain. I don't know. So I think we're going to go into our goodish, mediocre-ish, bad-ish segment.
Goodish, mediocre-ish, bad-ish.
Would you like to start?
Sure. I'm catching up on last time. I watched the Lego Movie Part 2 a month ago with my nephew and my sister. And I forgot to talk about it last time we did this because it didn't have a list.
Okay.
But Wasn't as good as the first one.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
It definitely falls into that whole the sequel problem. As if you do the exact same thing as the first movie, nobody likes it because it's the same thing. If you do something different than the first movie, nobody likes it because it's different. And it fell into the I didn't like it because it was different.
Yeah.
The plot wasn't good.
And the box office is bad.
Is it?
Yeah. For some reason, people just don't care.
Yeah. It's too late. It took 5 years to come out. It was still kind of fun. I appreciated seeing it as an adult, the humor, because obviously it's marketed towards kids. And sometimes kids can't read, but the Velociraptors speak in subtitles. So their jokes were pretty funny. Yeah. Because, it's the whole Nickelodeon things, things you put in kids shows that kids don't realize. But it was definitely mediocre.
Yeah. Yeah, well, first of all, it was marketed as everything isn't awesome now. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it's not awesome, and I don't really need to watch this movie about it.
Yeah, it was really it was set in a post-apocalyptic Lego world, and it was everything's not awesome, this happened since this day, and it's
who wants to watch that? Everyone wants to watch. I want to watch another movie of everything is awesome.
Right. I want to feel good, and it wasn't a feel-good movie.
Yeah. And right before it, Chris Pratt had some drama right before it came out, and I feel like he's a little bit past his time at this point.
He had his 15 seconds.
Yeah, and he's just not the fun, lovable. He's not Andy Dwyer anymore.
No,
and
he's not.
Everybody, that's the person people liked, and now he's this weird religious guy.
Yeah, Emmett was Andy Dwyer in Lego Movie Part 1, and now
now he's Chris Pratt.
I don't want to not like Chris Pratt. I want to like him because...
Yeah, me too. I'm predisposed to like him. Yeah. I feel like everything I liked about him is he just went from Rocky Road to vanilla really fast.
He did. He really did.
Yeah. And I just don't care anymore.
My roommate is watching Silicon Valley. And I've been in and out, I'll miss 5 episodes at a time. And then I'll watch one with him, and then I'll miss 5 episodes, and I'll watch one with him, and then I'll miss a season, and I'll watch one with him. Yeah. So, I know all the characters, I know the general concept, but it's I don't think that helps, but also I know that the general plot of Silicon Valley is, something bad happens, and then they spend the whole episode, figuring it out, and then wow, this miraculous thing worked! Now it's good! And then it's something bad happens, cliffhanger! It's every episode's the same plot, and it's I'm just sick of they catch a break and then something new happens, and then they catch a break and then something bad happens. It's
especially
the same.
If you don't even pay attention and it still seems repetitive.
Yeah. So it's mediocre for me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get all the mediocre ones out. As in 4 of the 5 things on my list are mediocre. I watched IO. The Netflix original movie. Yeah. With the 2 people.
Is it just I-O?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's IO. It's the moon.
Is it spelled that way? How's it spelled?
I-O.
The letters I-O.
It's the letters I-O. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I found myself on my phone during the movie, so that's why I'm going to say it's mediocre. Sure. Yeah. I liked the concept of the story. It was everybody left Earth. Except for a small handful of people. And then the last ships are leaving, so they have to go to the ships. But she's been studying the changes of Earth, because of climate change. The warning signs are there, kind of thing. It was one of those movies. But it was also, I didn't like the fact that... I didn't like the fact that the ending of it, I don't know if you're planning on watching it.
You can spoil it. I don't mind.
They mentioned a little, she adapts to the toxic air and stuff. So she doesn't have to leave Earth, and has a kid who doesn't have to leave Earth. So she's we're gonna repopulate the world kind of thing. And
isn't it just her?
Yeah, I mean, it was...
Who's her kid gonna marry?
Exactly, I don't know. The other people that still lived, because there's still pockets of air on Earth that are okay, so it's she's working on combining them kind of thing. To recreate this civilization on Earth. But she's talking the bees, her whole crop of bees died except for one, and that one's gonna save the planet kind of thing. And then she's
survival of the fittest.
And then she's the one,
she's the
human Yeah. So it's like it's a realistic post-apocalyptic world like I Am Legend.
Okay, sure.
Except there's no big bads, except Mother Earth, Mother Nature. So it's just slow. It was really slow. Okay. That's why I didn't like it. Like I said, I found myself on my phone because it was so slow. That was mediocre.
Yeah.
I had high expectations for it. Like after watching the trailer, I was like, oh, this is going to be really good. Like they're going to have to figure out how to get to the ship and the ship's going to have problems and then they're going to leave Earth. And it's like, oh no, they don't leave Earth. Like, wow.
Yeah, evolution is neat, but not very cinematic.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. It's a really good way to put it. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's neat. It's a good concept. She's a biologist. Her dad was a biologist, but so that was mediocre. I started listening to a new podcast because I've been playing D&D and I need more D&D in my life. Critical Role.
Okay.
And it's a podcast. It's also, they Twitch it live every Thursday. And it's mediocre because I'm just starting it. And like it starts out in the middle of a campaign. So all the characters are already like established. So like that's kind of hard to follow. Like I don't have any attachment to any of the characters yet.
Sure, yeah.
Because there's like 7 of them, which is a huge party. And the episodes are like 3 hours long, which is kind of hard. It's like if you were to watch Lord of the Rings, but you started at Helm's Deep.
And you'd be like, oh, what?
Which one's the main characters?
Yeah.
Who am I following kind of thing? Yeah.
And like, why do I care if they all die? Like,
that's exactly what this feels like. So I would say it's still mediocre. Anyways, so that's why
amazing.
I'm like,
this helps me understand why people are like on levels of nerddom. Like there's like people who like Star Wars or like, they're kind of nerds. People who are into D&D are like way down the rabbit hole.
So it's the 5 level of board games. Did I tell you about that?
I don't think so, but like that makes sense.
So there's level 1 is people that don't like board games. Level 2 is people that like Yahtzee or like basic card games, you know, like Go Fish. And
Sorry.
Yeah. I was gonna say sorry is a good example. Level 3 is like Settlers of Catan. They're the people that are like, oh, I like sophisticated board games, and they're like Settlers of Catan. They have like
game nights.
Yeah, they have game nights, and they play 7 Wonders or Settlers of Catan. And then there's level 4, which is where I would say I'm at, and this is my roommate and a lot of my friends are. Is like a Pandemic used to be on this level, and now it's, I would say Pandemic's the level 3. But like role playing games or like games that not everybody has, you know, kind of thing.
You like Magic the Gathering people?
Not necessarily. I'd say that's level 3 still.
Okay.
But like on that verge.
Yeah.
D&D, I would say is level 4. Where it's like, you're actually really into games. You are invested in this. Level 5, I'm not there. I don't know anybody. That's like Kickstarters. Like you literally are prototyping this game with the developer.
The
like
Codes of
online.
Dunshire?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Like that's level 5 board game. Yeah. I'm at level 4 and D&D is a level 4 board game. It's starting to get more popular, but I'd still say it's a level 4. That was a weird range of
I think part of the, like a little bit of the difference between you and me is, you know, I'm like a Super Mario 3 and you're like a Mario Party, you know? Like I'm kind of a single player.
You're a single player person. Yeah, I get that.
And, so those things appeal to me in the fact that they're kind of like part of my nerd culture, but not as much in the like, oh, I really want to do this with these people.
Anyways.
This has become the gaming podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I've been watching is I'm halfway through it is The Umbrella Academy.
I want to talk about that.
Have you watched it?
It's my first thing on my list. Yeah.
Have you finished it?
I finished it.
Okay.
I finished it in 2 days. Did you finish it?
No, I'm halfway through it.
Dang.
So we can't talk about it.
Yeah. It's okay. I have things I can say that aren't spoilery.
Okay. I'll let you know where. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
And then you can springboard off of what I'm talking about into your goodish.
Okay. Go for it.
I really like it. I like it because it's a superhero movie that isn't cliche and overdone because they're new characters to me. Because it is a comic book and it's not DC, it's not Marvel. I really like that. It's the interest of like they were a group of X-Men that have split apart because they got older kind of thing. Like I really like that aspect of it's like
emotionally damaged.
Yeah. Like your dad locked you in a like tomb. Fuck that. Yeah, like, what if Batman was a shitty parent?
Yeah.
That's what, yeah. Like if there's all these parallels.
If he adopted a bunch of kids and like raised them in Wayne Manor, like Dick Grayson, but like all the kids
was super shitty. Yeah, but it was like I like the pair. Like they clearly draw from certain things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and their powers are unique. I really like that. I really like. They're all really unique except for number one. Right. He's just strong.
Yeah, but even that, I think that how he comes about his powers and how they affect him are pretty unique. Like even the fact that he just looks weird and that he kind of has to like deal with that.
Mm-hmm. That he got the monkey serum to save his life.
Yeah, and he just looks like this. He has, it's like most guys where there's like a strong man, they're like proportionally large.
Yeah, he's the like the
he
quote
looks
unquote
weird.
Ideal man, and then he
has this itty bitty head on top of this gigantic shoulders. Yeah.
It's the toxic masculinity ideal man, but then once you get to it, you're like, oh, nobody actually likes this. It's the guy who has like the world's biggest biceps. He's like, yeah, I started doing curls because I wanted to like attract women, and nobody like I can't attract women because my arms are weird. And he's like, fuck it, that kind of thing. Yeah, so like he's got that trauma. Number two's powers backfired on her. I like Klaus. Klaus is my favorite character. I also really like Diego. Diego and number one have a Leonardo and Raphael dynamic.
Sure, yeah.
And that was my roommate pointed that out, and I was like, that's why it's familiar. They both want to be the leader, but one's, like the traditional leader, and one's the like, I think I'm better than you leader, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the fact that number 5 is still a kid, but is also an old man. I like that 6 is dead, but Klaus still sees him. Yeah. I really like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I really like Klaus.
Yeah.
Like you want waffles? Everybody likes waffles. Let's get waffles. And he's like, sounds like he's talking to himself, but he's talking to his brother this whole time.
Yeah.
And then Ellen Page, who obviously had powers the whole time. You knew going into it. You found that out. Officially.
Yeah.
When she plays the violin or when she is emotional or what. I don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
Don't spoil it for me. It was one of those things where, like, as soon as they were like, she takes meds, I was like, she has powers, but you can't control her, so you don't want to, you're scared of her kind of thing. Like, clearly she's the most powerful person. That's kind of a thing. Yeah. I really like, each character is unique, and I like that. Yeah. So that's really good so far. It's one of those things where it's like, my roommate and I want to keep watching it, but we just don't have the time together to watch it. And we're both very like active. Like I feel weird wasting a whole day binge watching something sometimes, but we're both like, I want to binge watch it, but we also know that we should probably go work out quick. I'm halfway through it. We just found out that Leonard, so spoiler alert, aka everybody that's not listening to that wants to watch it, because I would recommend it. Oh yeah, big spoiler alerts. Let's see, number 5 just went to admin, like he just vanished.
Sure, yeah.
I haven't seen or talked to anything about that, so like anything.
I like that Kate Walsh is that character.
Yeah. What else is she in? She looks familiar. It's one of those like, you're somebody, but I don't know who.
Well, she shows up in a lot of, like, she ends up playing, like, she was like the mom in Perks of Being a Wallflower and stuff like that, but she's really well known for Grey's Anatomy. So she was in Grey's and then had her own spin-off Private Practice. Yeah. And she was the main character of that show.
Got it. So that's where number 5 is right now. Klaus, Diego, and what's number 1's name?
I don't remember.
It's Dickon Tarley from Game of Thrones.
I know. He's also Jeff from the 11th Hour Doctor Who. Get a girlfriend, Jeff. Do you remember this? So Matt Smith's first episode. Yeah. He had the computer, and Matt Smith had to like get in touch with all the world leaders, and it's really highly implied that he was looking at porn when the doctor like grabbed his computer and he's like, "Get a girlfriend, Jeff." Yeah. I didn't know that. It was him. That's funny. That's how I knew it. I was like, "Who is that guy?" That's who it is. It's Jeff. Anyway, Luther.
I knew it was an L. Yeah, Luther. So Luther, Klaus, Ben, and Diego are all in the car driving away from Cha-Cha. Yeah. Cha-Cha.
They're fun.
I like those guys.
Because what's her name again? Oh, my goodness. Why can't I? Oh, Mary J. Blige.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The cast is really good.
Yeah.
It's a really good cast.
Yeah. I like how Ellen Page just wears Ellen Page clothes.
Right? Right? It's so
she's
it's
like I don't need a costumer.
She's just I'm sitting here, I'm like, I want to dress like her.
If I had her
like the elbow patch wool shirt.
If I had her body,
that is so clean.
I think if I had her body, I could wear her clothes.
It's all about confidence.
Yeah. I kind of aspire to that aesthetic.
Same. Did you see this shirt?
Yeah. I was admiring it. I like it.
I like this shirt a lot.
Yeah.
And my pants.
My pants. I'm wearing Star Wars pants and a Star Wars shirt.
I'm wearing my fancy pants that you like that I wear.
Oh, I do like those pants.
My favorite pants. Allison Rumor, number 2.
She's great.
Yeah, I like her too. She's checking in on Ellen Page, Vanya.
I really like their like sister dynamic.
I do. It's realistic.
Yeah, she's like, realistic. This is weird, but I guess I should probably work on this. And yeah, I really like it a lot.
So she's keep checking in on her. Clearly, Leonard was a bad guy. Again, I say bad guy as in all I know he has dumped her pills and killed the first chair.
Yeah, he clearly has ulterior motives. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I like it.
It is like there's so many little things like the mom thing. It's like it takes you a couple episodes to be like to have a character like that and not have it immediately be obvious that she's a robot is actually kind of brilliant. You know, where you're just like, that's weird, or that seems off, or is she like on the autism spectrum, or like did she have some sort of trauma? Right. You know, and it's kind of brilliant.
And that's this. So this is again. Don't say anything. I'm episode 5. We both think that the dad is still alive, because Klaus couldn't talk to him, and the whole monocle thing. Like he needed to keep his monocle. Like she took the monocle so that she could give it back to him, but then Diego took it. I like that Diego just was like, nope.
Yeah.
He thought this power is so weird that he can like hit people with knives. I don't know.
He has ultra accuracy as his superpower.
Which made me think, like, first of all, I love the fact that they only have 7 of the 50. Yeah. So it's like, cool, we're going to figure out the next 43 of them in the next 8 seasons. And I'm down for it. That kind of thing. But also...
That is very... Weird. And they just never touch on it.
No, they never do.
Like they kind of, well, nope, won't say that. Yeah, they just don't like, they're just like, yep, and there are 7.
Yep, it was like, yeah, he got 7. And my room and I were both like, all right, so the other 43 are going to be in later.
And you wonder, like, did he ever try to get more than that?
He tried getting them all.
Yeah, and he just only could get, I suppose if you,
7 of the parents.
I'm sure a lot of the parents would be like, no, I had a baby. Even if I didn't know it, it's still mine.
Right. Anyways, yeah, so I really like it.
Yeah, I think, do you have anything more to say about that? No. I don't want to intrude on your time. We need to... what it actually, and they're not the same, not even really similar, but the tone really actually reminded me of Sabrina. This like...
a little dark.
Fun, dark, kind of like you're not quite sure. A lot of like, oh, they just did that moments. Yeah, that kind of like delicious... dark.
Yeah, it reminds me of Watchmen.
Yeah. I like things like that where you're just like, oh, it's kind of irreverent and dark and fun in a delicious kind of way. And Sabrina's a little bit more like Sheen and Riverdale than Umbrella Academy, but there's also, I can't say a lot. Nope. We'll talk about it next time.
Yeah, please. Thanks.
It was fun to just watch Ellen Page just be Ellen Page.
Yeah, like, I do like that too.
She's like, nah, I'm not gonna. She's like a good actress, but more so in this than anything else. I also actually liked that the show has Klaus as the obviously flamboyantly gay person, and Ellen Page dresses like Ellen Page, who's dresses that way, expressing her sexuality. And so it's like a show that's like cool LGBT whatever, but like the publicly gay person doesn't need to be the expression of that, which I kind of liked.
That's also one of the reasons I really like Klaus is like he reminds me of Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
And I really like him and his style. And there's that one episode, it's like episode 3 or 4, where he has like he has to pretend to be number 5's dad. And he's got like a blouse on. Yeah. And I'm like, I want that. I would wear that. I would. And I'm like, that's fucking dope, but I don't know where to get that. Anyways.
Probably Goodwill.
I have a weird thing about secondhand clothes.
Yeah, I do too.
Anyways, what else is on your list?
Well, okay, so I just have been watching a lot of things, so I'm not going to talk about nearly all of them.
I feel like this part of this segment of our show gets really long sometimes.
It does.
But it's also like parking lot
People can always just skip it if they want to.
I mean, like, I hope you listen. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, you're here for it now. We also, the last 2 episodes, haven't done a lot of homework on to talk about.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, first I'll talk about The Greatest Showman. I've been predisposed to not like The Greatest Showman because all the reviews and all the critics and I just know that P.T. Barnum was a terrible person. And so I'm like, I didn't want to like it. And I kind of hate all the people I know in real life were like, came home from it crying and talked about it for days afterward. And all the critics, like, I've heard deconstructions of this film. And so they're like, it's not very good and it's problematic and this is weird. And even apart from just it being P.T. Barnum, like, the movie has some problems. But I really had a fun time. And I was like, I like this and I feel things about these people and I don't want to be, and what I just really wish is that it could have just been a story about some guy, just call him Joe and have him be a circus dude who came from a poor background. And then I think this would have been like way better. And then I would have like unashamedly like it. Like I like Pearl Harbor and Forrest Gump, because like the music was fun and it was like good music. And, I was like, oh, this is like making me feel emotions. And so, yeah, I would say I wouldn't put it up there with like one of the best movies I've ever seen, but it so exceeded my expectations that I probably have to put it on the low end of goodish because it's still not like, oh my goodness, amazing. But I had a really good time, begrudgingly. I watched Fast and the Furious for the first time.
The first one?
The first one. And that was another one where I was like, I'm not interested in this. This is just a bunch of testosterone and cars and guys being dirty and whatever. And again, I was like, oh, I actually kind of care about these characters. Yeah. And I'm like weirdly drawn into this movie. I was kind of planning on having it just play in the background. And then I ended up just sitting there and watching it and being like, oh no. Yeah. So
when he loses his car and
it's like a big deal. And I felt things and I was like, oh, this is why people love these movies.
That movie is not like the rest of the movies. Have you seen the other movies?
No, that was the first one I've ever watched.
That movie is not like the rest of the movies.
Are the others like not good?
Once you get to Fast 4 and 5, they become superhero movies.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that the next one's going to be like them in space.
Kind of.
I mean, not actually, but like the way that it progresses.
They become superheroes.
Yeah.
1 is very emotional. 2 is very like starting to get fun. 3 is just like Tokyo. It's Tokyo Drift. It drifts away from it. Yeah. And then 4, like if 1 and 2 are down the same road, Tokyo drifts it way out to the right, and then 4 overcorrects into superheroes. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad to have seen at least one of them to know what people are talking about.
I really liked the first one.
Yeah. I heard they sent Paul Walker off well, at the end of whatever that movie was. Yeah, so I feel like my mission of like checking movies off the list is going well. I watched like some newer ones like Happy Death Day because I wanted to go see Happy Death Day to You, which was really fun and good. I heard that Happy Death Day to You, I haven't seen it, but the reviews are saying it avoids that trap of like the sequel trap because basically sequels do like the solo thing where the character learned a lesson and then they have to backtrack and have them unlearn that lesson to learn it again in the sequel. And apparently Happy Death Day to You is supposed to be like a sci-fi movie, basically, almost, which is this weird, like, and how does the time travel Groundhog Day thing work? And So I'm excited to go see that, but I haven't. Okay, and my last one I'll do because there's a lot, but I'll just do. I watched "Won't You Be My Neighbor" on HBO.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, and it was very sweet. I cried a little bit. Everything that people have been saying, it should have won Best Documentary of the Year and whatever. I'm like, no, I mean, Mr. Rogers should have been president of the world, but like, I don't know that. Like, the movie was good. It was really good. But I mostly just, it was nice to spend some time with Mr. Rogers, which I felt similarly about the RGB documentary, where I was like, she's great. And all that was like great to learn. There's nothing about the documentary where I was like, this film is amazing. So I think other than that, I did watch Deadpool 2, which was kind of a big one too, which I actually might have liked better than the first one. I don't need to talk about it. But I was having fun.
Yeah. Deadpool is fun.
Yeah.
Deadpool is the one Marvel thing that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
I love Deadpool. I want to see Deadpool Spider-Man crossover because they do in comics and it's fun.
Yeah, because they basically look exactly the same. Yeah,
and they play into it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also read Childish Gambino's script.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I want to read that. I haven't. I know about it.
It was a pilot, like, animated episode. It was like quick. That was pretty funny because his fourth wall break was like directed at the studio that didn't pick it up. One of his fourth wall breaks, at least. So that was really good. But yeah, Deadpool. I really like Deadpool. Like have you seen this guy? And it's like the crayon drawings of stuff he does. In the first. Yeah. But then
we were talking today about who's your favorite Ryan Reynolds or Ryan Gosling.
Oh.
I was like, I have such deep emotional attachment to Ryan Gosling just because growing up in the early 2000s. But it's like Ryan Reynolds, I decided, is like the most entertaining. But Ryan Gosling is like who I want to hang and have a beer with.
Can I throw in Jake Gyllenhaal into this conversation and make it even harder?
He's not a Ryan.
His middle name is.
Love that you know his middle name.
It's for this argument, it is. I like Ryan Gosling. I really do. But I think Ryan Reynolds I would have more fun with. Mm-hmm. But that's one of those things where it's like Ryan Reynolds is like attractive and funny. Mm-hmm. So it's like, pick one, dick. Mm-hmm. Can't have both. You can't be Chris Pratt, and Chris Pratt failed. Mm-hmm. You know, kind of thing.
Chris Pratt 1.0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Chris Pratt 1.5 when he was both attractive and funny.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But yeah, Ryan Reynolds is funny, and I'm excited for Detective Pikachu.
And he seems like me too. Did you see the new trailer?
I don't watch trailers besides the first one.
Okay, you probably shouldn't watch this one.
I'm not going to.
But I will say it did make me more excited.
Anyway.
Hey, leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Y'all have been great. And thanks for listening through all of what just happened. So follow us on the things, and you'll hear from us later sometime.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Long Shot Parking Lot. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, including iTunes, Podbean, and now Spotify. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter. If there are any topics you'd like to discuss, please email us at longshotparkinglot@gmail.com.